Fear not, denizens, parade is here, aka the bringer of rain, aka father of the sea and sun, aka king of the core. And today, before I introduce my very special guest, I want to welcome you all to the Core Creators Podcast, where I interview creators across the HoloNet. And today, if you haven't seen it already, we have the Batuu Bounder, the fashionista phenom, co-host of the very popular Off the Rack Rebellion on YouTube, Burgundy 3, a Burgundy Squadron, none other than Ceit Ryder of One Scavenger's Wardrobe. How are you?
Doing well. I always love hearing the titles. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I gotta start putting it out to like a vote where I'm like, hey, what do you guys know this creator for?
Yeah.
Because I'm like running out of adverbs and use a word.
Just remix it. Just remix
I know,
it.
but I mean, it's been a long time since I had you on the podcast. And last time we were just talking about costuming, and that was even before you and Billy started Off the Rack Rebellion. And
my God,
yeah,
it was so long ago.
Doesn't it feel like forever ago?
It does. It seems like ages. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think we've been doing this forever, and I think we're only on episode like 12, right?
You guys are like at like 17, I think. You
Oh,
guys
is
are...
it 17? Oh, God, I lose track. I do. I lose track.
No worries, because I think at first you guys were like, oh, we'll do 12 episodes and we'll talk about it, and you guys are keep going. I'm like, yeah, this is great, and everyone loves it, like from what I've heard so far, and you guys are doing... I'm just gonna put you guys up there because it's been really good. I really liked the last episode, and we're going to get to it because that's why I have you here, about the Halcy-Con.
Perfect.
The Halcy-Con.
Yes.
And you guys had visual aid, and that was great because those looks
Yeah.
were fantastic.
It was fun to put together, too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that part.
Yeah. So let's get into it. You went to the Halcy-Con. We had Adam on the podcast, and Ian Grayson, he talked about his experience vending there. And this episode, the episode I did with actually Holoscan's database, I got his take on Halcyon. But now I want your take, and I want to know what your experience was like. So walk us through it. How many, and I'm going to put you on the spot, how many costumes did you bring?
Oh my gosh. Oh, this was so funny. So not as fun as you would think. So
Okay.
So actually, I know. Actually, I was kind of surprised at myself. I got there and I was like, I could have used one more. So, like, all summer long, Adam, and I were really kind of hatching this plan because we did on Sunday at the park post convention. We did a photo shoot with Halcy-Con database with DISO, and so we were planning that kind of all summer. And then I was also like, okay, so we did like cover characters. We were like, okay, these are our Star Wars characters, our Burgundy characters, but they're undercover. Yeah. And so we like made these layers, and then I was like, you know what? It would just be too easy. I'm gonna make another character. Nobody's gonna know, but I just want to do something different because it was a really different venue for me. Like I've never been to a Star Wars celebration. I didn't make it on the Halcyon, and so I had never had that experience of multiple days, all Star Wars all the time, and I really wanted to deep dive into that and just flex my muscles a little bit, like try something new. And actually, probably like a year ago, Zach Eskren I don't know if he remembers this, but he was like, I challenge you to do like an Imperial officer or like something really streamlined and sleek, and like I never have because it's not usually my style. And I was like, it was kind of in the back of my mind. I was like, I'm going to be inside in air conditioning. That's going to be key. Yeah. And it's going to be like, so I was really rolling around like in my mind for months on like what to do. But I did get the idea to do kind of two characters, and I wanted to make them complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So like my character for the photo shoot is really like, I call her a space hippie. Like it's really... There's a lot of linen, there's a lot of beads, there's a lot of like stuff that she's gathered through the galaxy kind of. And so I wanted this other cover character. It's completely different because my character for Burgundy Squadron, her role is supposed to be this chameleon who can be, put a different filter on her, put her in any location you need, she's going to blend in. And I was like, oh, I haven't really done that Star Wars for this like sleek and sophisticated. So that's the route that I went, and it was hard for me. Actually, really hard for me. I think I'm just so I'm so like ingrained in my jumpsuits. And actually, Dee was so like, "Oh, I'm so sad you're not in your like cargo jumpsuits."
Yeah, he mentioned that.
That's how I know you. I'm like, "Oh, sorry. I like was doing something different." But,
Right.
it's hard for me because like Billy and I talked in one episode on All the Rec Rebellion about like color stories for characters tell
Mm-hmm.
so much, right? And
Yeah.
we talked about it around me planning this, and so finally I decided, okay, I'm just going black because I was like,
Yeah.
I would just overcomplicating it. And so I ended up with like four
Okay.
outfits. Yeah, and the one was just for like the final evening, which was a formal event.
Yeah.
And so I was really like, man, I could have used another like change into it to be comfortable fit, but everything worked. Everything worked
Yeah.
fine, and even the stuff that I thought wasn't great, people really liked, and that was lovely. So
Yeah. No, the looks looked great when Ian dropped, you know, both of you and your looks for the day over the weekend. I was like,
yeah,
dude, this is fire.
yeah,
Like you guys looked great. You looked
yeah,
fantastic.
totally.
And he teased that, or you had posted that you're shooting with D on Instagram,
Yes.
and then he teased that he's like, oh, the photos are coming out soon, not yet. And then when they dropped, oh man, I was blown away because D
Yeah.
dropped like 17 different photos, and they were
I
all
know,
really
right?
good.
They're really good. And we're gonna go back, so Ian and I are gonna go back and like tell more of what's going
Yeah,
on in the story for us,
yeah, yeah,
right?
for
Because
sure.
we actually cooked up this whole backstory and he made some stuff for it and everything. And it was just both of us geeking out on like layers of character, right?
Oh yeah,
And so that's what we're gonna so for a few Ferrex Fridays coming, we're gonna start being like telling kind of
yeah,
these little stories of how we got there and what we were doing.
yeah. I think that would be
So
really
yeah,
cool.
it's gonna be fun. So
So what
yeah,
was it like day one? Or didn't there was like a preview night-ish kind of thing Thursday
there
night?
was. Yeah, yeah. So for anyone who was staying in a room block, or for anyone who could get an extra wristband,
Mm.
which is what got you in, which were there were tons of people that were able. We had an extra, so I stayed with two of our friends from book club,
Oh yeah.
and so we had an extra one for Ian, and then we saw some folks who were just like, "Hey, I've got extra wristbands.
Oh
Who needs
cool.
one?"
Yeah.
To get people in. It was like just a mixer, and it was a little overwhelming because we had not eaten dinner. Like it definitely this all summer long. Ian kept being like, "I need to remember to drink water for my
Mm-hmm.
migraines." I'm like, "I need to remember to eat for my low blood sugar." Did I do that? No.
No.
And so like the four of us had kind of finally ordered dinner at like 6, but then it wasn't delivered until like 7:30 or 8 or
Okay.
something. So we kind of went in and then our food was delivered. And I was like sitting there like chowing down on like Greek food because I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, I am gonna die right now. Um, but the lovely thing is that like I really didn't know everything to expect because like I said, I hadn't been to a pure Star Wars
Mm.
event
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so much fun to have it kick off with this mixer, just this, the grand ballroom was just set with tables and there was some music, some entertainment going on. There were some bars set up, and it was just everybody. It was so the whole weekend, but especially kicking off here,
Mm-hmm.
was a giant extended family reunion, is what
Yeah.
the Halcy-Con was. So they are planning 2025, and if you're listening and you didn't go and you're like, oh man, I missed out, try to go to 2025.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
because it was super cool to then see, a few, people that I knew only on Instagram
Yeah.
and see them in person, and then have people be like, "Oh my gosh, it's you!" And I'm like, "Holy cow, you know me! This is amazing!" So that was what really blew me over. I was like, "Oh, some people knew me! Oh my
Well, I
gosh,
mean, real quick,
it's
you
cool!"
are the Disney bound Star Wars person. Hashtag, Ceit Ryder #1 trending.
Why, thank you. I should start the hashtag of Ceit Ryder. What the heck?
Yeah.
Why am I not using my own name? But yeah, so that was really incredible. And then the really fun thing, like absolutely my favorite portion of it was that across the hall then they had a big room that they set up with lighting and
Mm-hmm.
backdrops and sabacc tables, and it
Yeah.
was this like I don't even know how to describe like because each kind of table had a little bit of a different feel, but it was all overall had a pretty uniform.
Yeah.
It like yeah, lighting and banners and like different props, and so you felt like you were stepping into somewhere in universe
Yeah.
to go play sabacc. And
That's
so
so cool.
Hyperspace Props was there
Mm-hmm.
and got to meet both of them. They're my new favorite people.
Oh yeah, you guys
I got to learn
made
how to play because
friends.
I had never played.
Yeah. Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually have 2 sabacc decks because I had forgotten I already had one last time I went to Batuu, and I was like, I need this. And so yeah, so I was like, well, I'm gonna finally learn how to play, and so it
Yeah.
was super fun to learn that. And so, you know, like in the evenings, like we'd see a little bit of what was going on, but we'd kind of like venture over there and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and just take photos, like watch some people. It really
Yeah.
felt like Canterbury, especially on
Okay.
the last night, because the last night there was a tournament.
Yeah.
Um, for charity, and everyone was dressed up, and I was like, this is awesome. I love this.
Especially you guys doing like a when Ian was describing it, like a red carpet, like, oh, who are you wearing? What are you wearing? Because he was saying he was bringing people over to talk to you. For
Yeah,
the...
yeah, yeah. So that was, I mean, jumping ahead a little
Oh,
bit
sure.
so it was Thursday night through Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
So on Friday night,
Mm-hmm.
I finally was like, oh my gosh, I should be talking to people about their Star Wars
Yeah.
style. I should do that
Oh, so
tomorrow.
you didn't
Well,
have that?
Saturday
You didn't have
dawned.
that planned before the trip at
It
all?
wasn't
Oh,
planned. No, no, I
wow.
don't know why I didn't think about that. I know, right? And I was like, wow, this was almost a missed opportunity. And Saturday morning dawned and I was not feeling well. And I didn't
Oh,
realize
okay.
that Ian also was not feeling great. I think we had just, and like every night I was like, hey, so long, everybody. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't sleep. I don't sleep very well in a hotel. And I
Sure.
think I was just not eating enough, like nowhere near enough and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So Saturday dawned and I was like, whew, I'm not feeling great. And I was able
Mm.
to pull through by midday, but then
Okay.
I had stuff I had to do. I had like a panel and
Mm-hmm.
um I was really nervous about like being late to this panel and everything, so I like kind of like cleared my schedule before it. I
Okay.
even missed kind of like the main event
Mm.
that afternoon because it was right before my panel and I didn't want to
Oh,
be late.
right. Yeah.
Which ironically I was the only one that showed up on time, and so Dee was with me, and so we like it's like what my I definitely call my new space brother. Like we're
Yeah.
like we would just sit around and just talk all the time, and whenever we had a down moment, and so I was just like nervously waiting for my panel, and so
Yeah.
he was sitting with me and chatting, and we went in there, and like the lights were turned off. Like we go in, and he's like flipping the lights on. I'm like, I don't know if we're in the right place, but I like got set up, and then like people started coming in, and so I was like, are you here for costuming of the galaxy? And they're like, yeah, we are. I'm like, okay, great, me too. I don't know if I'm in the right place, but now I'm like, and they're like looking at me. I'm like, yeah, I got a name tag, but I don't know if I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And so then a conversation started,
Mm-hmm.
and more people would come in. I'm like, I'm not the show, and Dee is like, she's the
She's
show.
the show. Too
So
humble. Too
and then
humble.
so the rest of the panelists did show up and they had been at the plenary session, and so they were all
Okay.
like, oh, we were trying to get out of that big ballroom with all like the whole crowd, and so
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
did show up, but I was like, whew. It was like definitely like, I'm not, this is not just me.
How did the panel go though?
Yeah, so went really well. It was that was my official panel because on Friday our book club
Oh yeah.
they had like kind of different levels. Like a panel was when you had um, different people coming from different things to talk about a common topic. Like Ian had one for the makers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was several makers
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that were talking about their experience and then their experience together as part of the Galactic Mercantile Guild.
Yeah.
Which was a lovely panel. I filmed a bunch of it. I photoed
Oh,
a bunch
nice.
of it. It was great listening to them all talk about
Yeah.
that journey. And then that afternoon on Friday, our book club had more of like a talk, but we turned it into kind of a panel where
Mm-hmm.
Ian like kind of led the conversation with some questions and would kind of go down the row of
Yeah.
us 3 ladies that were there, and also he would answer himself. And then so then Saturday was my real panel with these people that I didn't really know. Well,
Mm-hmm.
one was someone I follow online, and I love her costuming I have for a while. And so getting to meet her, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I didn't realize that it was a whole bunch of Rebel Legion and 501st people and me.
Oh.
I was like, and then when I got there, I was like, oh, it's like dawning on me while I'm sitting there and everyone's introducing themselves. I'm like, oh my God.
You're fine.
What
You
have I
don't have to be in those clubs. You're in Burgundy Squad. You're in Burgundy Squad.
Yeah, that's what like Dee definitely at the end like asked some questions about Burgundy Squadron. I was all like, it's this group of friends, and it's 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 this wonderful thing that we do to keep each other going and
Yeah.
find community. And you too can, I mean, you don't have to join us. You can do your
Yeah.
own, but you
Yeah.
could join us.
Yeah.
Like, but it was just like, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, like sitting up there with people that like I know their names and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is big.
You're up there.
And
You're
it
up
was
there.
it was thanks. Yeah, it was a great experience. I was super happy. It was a small con. I think it was like 600 people or
Yeah.
something like that.
For the first one, that's a
So
lot
it
of
was,
people.
yeah, absolutely. They were joking that they were like, if we compare ourselves to the original first year of San Diego Comic-Con, we're doing really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's like true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so it was really nice to cut my teeth in those kind of
Yeah.
things. And on Friday afternoon, I had Friday was packed because it was like I volunteered first thing Friday morning to help with the last of check-in,
Mm.
and then I and the makers had their panel that I wanted to be at to
Mm-hmm.
photograph and film, and then our book club, and then that afternoon I hosted a costuming and prop swap,
Yeah.
which went really well, and people were like, "We wish it was longer than an hour." I was like, "Me too." So
Yeah.
maybe next time we can figure something out. But it was so much fun because it was kind of like this little hour-long dress-up session on
Yeah.
top of dress-up, because everyone comes in their costume, but then finds something and is asking friends or total strangers, "What do you think? Does this look good on
Yeah.
me?" Like, I
Right.
was like helping people find pieces. I was in heaven.
Yeah.
And I kept saying that. I was like, "Everybody, I'm so happy. Oh my God." Thank you for being here. So Friday was super busy like that, and then
Yeah.
Saturday was like, whew, okay, I've got all day long to just kind of prepare for this one big thing.
Yeah.
We can party in the evening, and that's why Friday night after hosting that costuming swap, the clothing swap, I was like, oh my God, like thinking about why people were choosing what they were choosing,
Mm.
and watching them either get ideas or realizing they could use something for some a project they already had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I should be recording this. What the heck am I doing? I'm missing out on all this.
So
And so
much
that's why I
content
messaged
that
Billy.
you were no, it
I
happens.
know,
It
no, right? I'm
happens.
like, yeah, for sure. I know. Like, I had been so focused on all the things I was focused on, I didn't even think about, wow, I could be using this until almost the last minute. But thankfully
Yeah.
we did. And then that's when I ran into a few people during the day being like, oh my gosh, I love what you're wearing. I hope to catch up with you. But I'm trying to do this. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And by the time I caught up with people, it was when I was dressed and going down and finding my friends for the gala, and I had forgotten my badge and I had to go back up to the room and all this. And so I think Ian was like, "Where were you? Like, I was looking for you."
Now
It
you're the
took
late
you
one.
so long. Yeah, I was definitely the late one, and that's why is because I had suddenly gone into reporter mode. Like using my high school newspaper experience,
Yeah.
right? Jumping into that. And so he jumped in as my assistant, which I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting. And I would like be talking to someone, I would turn around and he would introduce me to the person and be like, "I've taken their photo and they're ready for you to talk
That's
to." And I'm like, "Oh
awesome.
my God, okay, great." And
Yeah, it was
so
like he's like a producer. You're a producer. He's like, okay, we have so and so
oh,
coming in next.
totally. Yeah. He's like, "You have a vision, we're gonna make it happen." I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Okay." That became like a production line for a little bit, and I was
Yeah.
very grateful. And it was also fun to kind of pass the time that way because like the dance was going on, which was great.
Mm.
But and then the sabak tournament was going on, and so it was kind of popping back and forth between the two. But
Yeah.
also, like, I still wanted to just soak up like the
Yeah.
people
Mm-hmm.
and those connections and chat with folks
Yeah.
and learn why. Like my question, I only asked one question. It
Mm.
was, why did you choose this as
Mm.
part of your Star Wars style?
Mm.
What inspired this? And so it was great to like just let people ramble about that.
Yeah. Ah, that's so
So,
cool. And
yeah.
see, that's the hard part about being like a content creator, right? Because you're like, oh, I should film this, or oh, I should have recorded that, and but you actually miss a lot of the moment. And
Mhm.
so to kind of step away from it, because there's times where I'm like, oh, I should have recorded that reaction, or I should have do a podcast about it. But I'm like, let me just keep this for me. Let me just be in this
Yeah.
moment and enjoy it.
Oh,
Because
totally.
what happens for me is like, let's say I'm at a music concert and I'm recording. I'm probably never going to watch that recording more than once. Unless I post it, but that even still.
Right.
But then I regret not being in the moment and enjoying the music and enjoying the energy and the atmosphere. So
Yeah.
it's this hard balance, right? It's a hard balance, but it sounded
It
like you
is.
did
Yeah,
take a
I
chance
feel
to
like we
talk to people.
struck it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because then by the end, I was kind of like, oh, I've got a long list of people. We could wind it down, and it was kind of like the end of the music and kind of that enjoying that with our friends. And
Mm-hmm.
one of our friends was dancing with a droid, which is yeah, I did get a video of that. Actually, I still
Yeah.
have to share that. I need to share that because she's adorable. And like just and there was a beautiful art installation where they had sort of like a woven, almost like a basket base or like a spider web
Okay.
woven out of reeds,
Oh
and
wow.
then they had strips of colorful fabric to write messages in Arabic. So then they had like a
Oh wow.
display of Arabic, and so you could write wishes and messages and things like that. And
Yeah.
so I went over to write mine, and Ian went with me, and is more fluent than I am. Actually, used to be more fluent in Arabic
Yeah.
when I was a teenager. I used to pass notes in high school in Arabic.
Nerd.
I know, we all would have been friends if we went to the same high school. I swear. Um, but he went with me, and we were just kind of admiring like what people said because he was just like reading some of them
Yeah.
off, and it was just this little moment that I was like, because we talked later when we were all packing up, um, that evening and kind of the next evening, and we were like, core memories, and I think that that's
Yeah.
definitely one of them. It was definitely like the music was going, people were like spinning lightsabers, the droids were doing their thing, like
Yeah.
we were like reading these messages in Arabic and like writing them, and it was just really beautiful. And so I can't remember where they're displaying that. I think it's like an art therapy camp or something
Oh,
like that
cool.
it's going to, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and ask Christine, but it was a really beautiful piece. They actually had a whole room which they had called for artists to bring in their like inspired art, that was inspired by the Halcyon, and so
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the interactive pieces. So
That's really cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, to go back, what's one thing you took away from having a panel? You did. It sounds like you did two of them.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
some takeaways? What did you learn from that experience?
Oh wow. What did I learn? Other than just to not be as nervous, like as I was like
Right.
really nervous leading up to it. And
Yeah.
um I think just because it was a new experience, obviously like not a podcast. I'm not really like I'm not that shy these days, right?
Yeah.
Um yeah, I feel like I think maybe I should have probably reached out to some of the other panelists a little bit sooner. And because
Okay.
I realized
Sure.
that do you know who Jay Nessa is? And now I'm gonna completely forget
Janessa.
her Instagram handle. Hang on, let
Sounds
me go look this
familiar.
up because now I've got to. Yeah, she is an incredible cosplayer.
Nice.
Not just Star Wars. Let
Okay.
me see. Oh, J42.
Oh, okay.
Jaye
I don't think I'm
42.
familiar. You have to look
You're
it up.
not following the scale, follow the scale. So good. And so we had been like fashion crushing on each other for a long
Yeah.
time. And so realized like already followed each other, and then realized we were on the panel together, and so I was thrilled. But I think a lot of things with Halcyon were a little bit Halcy-Con, sorry. Delayed. It was my first time, so I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize like, oh, I should be hearing like who's on my panel and things like that, and I should
Mm.
reach out if I haven't heard by now and stuff like that. But it
How did?
ended up being
Can I
fine.
ask the background of like how that worked? Because Ian said the same thing. He's like,
Yeah.
is it you sign up for it and or did they say, hey, can you do a panel, and then they just give you a few names to do it with, or?
Yeah, no. So it was a really, and I don't know because I haven't applied to any other convention to ever do
Sure.
this, but
Yeah.
it was a pretty in-depth process from what I thought. And I enjoyed it. So it was they put so last February, because I remember
Oh
I
yeah.
was in Florida with my family on midwinter break,
Uh-huh.
and we needed to submit. There was like a window that you could submit your suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
either if you wanted to do it or if you just thought it was a good idea,
Oh okay.
which is what happened with that the costuming swap. That wasn't originally
Mm.
my idea. It was just something that someone had submitted, and they needed somebody to moderate
Yeah, I
it.
remember you saying that.
And
Yeah.
I later applied to do it, and was chosen, which was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you applied,
Okay.
and then there was um a few months later there was a voting period because it was such a small con. They
Mm-hmm.
could just send out in emails and be like, "Hey, here's the link to the voting," and they just voted based on title.
Oh okay.
And we were kind of laughing when we were in our book club because there were four of us,
Uh-huh.
and then there were three ladies that came to see us who Ian has recruited because he is our recruiting specialist, and they're now in our book club. I have to send them messages
Yeah.
to invite them formally, but like they're in our book club.
Yeah.
And so we're like, what did it take? Just like 7 votes to get in? Because we were all really surprised that anyone wanted to sit down and listen to us about our book club experience, but they did.
Okay. Nice.
And it was because they were looking for a book club, and we definitely sniffed that out. And we're
Yeah.
like, you all seem pretty cool. Do you want to join
yeah.
us? So it was definitely, I think because it was such a small con, it let those experiences unfold like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like Emerald City Comic Con or New York City, I have no idea how the big ones do it.
Right.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. And then they did have another period of time where they said, okay, here's a bunch of things that were suggested.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to host, but people voted for them. Or here's a panel that could use a person or two. And that's how I got
Oh,
on the
okay.
costuming one.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like, hey, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'll throw. And so everything I threw my name in, I think it was those two things I threw my name in to be like, yeah, I would be
Yeah,
willing
yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
And they chose me, so I was like, oh, okay,
Okay.
awesome. It was really, really fun too. So I also love seeing the inner workings of things.
Hmm.
And so just being on the volunteering for the check-in was enough for me to like kind
Yeah.
of like a little bit of the inside. So I loved volunteering and being on a panel and like being an attendee like that.
Yeah.
That was just really fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about it. I talked about it with Ian. I was like, eventually Burgundy Squad will have their own convention. I was like, I want this channel to
Yeah.
have its own convention. I want to be on a panel. I was like, I want to do all of this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
But yet, I guess, I mean, going, of course, is going to be different from being behind the scenes. But then even
Yeah.
just the step of putting one on is even
Oh
more
yeah.
so, right? So
Oh,
just getting a taste of
it
checking
seems
people in
like,
sounds 600 people check in is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And most folks checked in the night before on Thursday when
Yeah.
I was not volunteering. I totally, because I went through the check-in process myself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But it was still, it was the Friday morning turned very much into like also like an info desk because it
Hmm.
was like, where is this? What time is this?
Yeah, yeah,
The schedule says this, but I thought it was this. You know what I mean? And like, just kind of, and I was like, oh man, I like that kind of stuff. So it was like cool. So
yeah.
definitely a
So
new side of conventions for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been to a couple small ones, and it definitely feels more community based, like neighborhood based. But
Yeah.
the big ones are a lot of fun, and I'm always curious how to they get the big names and they get the celebrities to come.
Yeah,
And it might just be just a matter of just reaching out, doing who's their manager, PR stuff
totally.
like that. So maybe we'll see one
Yeah,
of
there's got to
these.
be something like that for big names.
Yeah.
My manager was unavailable. No, I had to do it myself.
Yeah, you have to talk to my agent for me to show
Yeah,
up to any of these things.
yeah, totally.
What was one of your you might have mentioned it, but what was one of your favorite things about the con, being at this con? Because I know you've been to other cons and Ren fairs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the crazy thing, and I kept saying this because my brain was, other than just not sleeping, because when
Hmm.
I get excited, I just don't sleep, and I
Yeah.
was just amped for, a whole week, right?
Yeah.
But the amazing thing, and one reason why my brain was so overloaded, is because going through the hallways, I knew so many faces.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
there were people I kept being like, do I follow them? Do they follow me?
Yeah.
Or do they just have a really familiar face?
Right, right.
Right? And I'm like, but then you're like, oh my God, no, I know you. And you would go up and
Yeah.
you would talk and they'd be like, oh yeah. And so, because that's why, like, I kept being like, this is an extended family reunion. These are the second and
Yeah.
third cousins that I've never met, that I've
Oh,
only heard
yeah.
of.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and so that was such a unique experience for me. And again, I'm sure that happens. I mean, at Celebration, it's probably bigger, and so you probably don't see as many people, or maybe you do that you
Yeah.
know. But that was a really fun because here in Seattle, like I know of other Seattle cosplayers. I'm
Mm.
friends with a couple,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I know a lot of like the more famous ones that we have in Seattle.
Yeah.
And I'll like see them in the costume competition, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know them.
Yeah.
And then like I've got some friends that I got to get together with last year and do some stuff with, but
Mm.
not a ton of people. But at this one, it was like every time I turn around, I'm like, oh God, I know them. Especially the first evening, and then at check-in the next morning, as people were also coming into the um, first, because everyone came into the ballroom for a muster, is what because
Oh,
that's
okay.
how they started the day on the Halcyon, and so
Yeah.
that's how they started this.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was like I was seeing people stream by, and so like some of Zach Eskren's friends from the Halcyon were there, and he wasn't. So I was told to go give them hugs, and luckily
Yeah, yeah.
we also follow each other, so they knew who I was. So it was like a
all
total
these
like weirdo.
parasocial relationships that are happening, and you're like, oh, it's in real life. It's like school.
Oh, it was. Yeah. Oh man, it was actually kind of like, yeah, like when you're back in high school and everyone's back for the first day after summer and you haven't seen everybody for right? Yeah, so it was really, that was like the most fun part for me. Yeah, was just getting to meet the people that I was like, God, I only know you through Instagram, and now we get to stand here and have this conversation, and I'm so happy.
That's super rad. That's super rad.
The second night they had two bands, one of our guys in our book club, it was this band, and they're really good, and we were super excited to see them. Yeah, Ben is also recruited by Adam, by Ian from the Halcyon. And so, you know, and we were like, oh yeah, well, we got to go see his band. Well, then they ended up being this really great punk cover band. And I was like, this is awesome. So we were like, kind of little groupies being like, yeah, Ben. I mean, other people knew him too, but we were just, you know, had to get like the group selfie at the end and everything. So it was, and you could still duck out and play sabacc across the room, or, you know, people are still, we actually had been all going back to our rooms after that show wrapped up. And the convergence of the like one way out group, right? Like they all were coming through in their jumpsuits. Yeah. We were like totally blocked off and like had to let them do their photo shoot and everything. And apparently they went and jumped to the hotel and may have caused a little bit of chaos, or jumped in the pool and may have caused a little bit of chaos, but hopefully not. But it was, you know, it was like just, there was always something happening. And in the hallways they had kind of like little lounge areas set up, like in the downstairs hall. So you can just go like duck away with friends if you wanted to. There were tables set up so you could get away from the noise if you wanted and all that. So yeah.
Was sabacc
so that was the second night, and then
was sabacc going the whole weekekend? Did they have
I don't remember if it was going during the day, honestly, because I didn't make it that far down that hallway during the day. Because I was so busy. I would have to ask somebody else. Dee might know. He had ducked into a few different things that were down that hallway.
He talked about like a couple panels and Saja stuff and some lightsaber twirling stuff. It was
I'm so glad he got to do that.
Yeah. How was it meeting Dee for the first time and shooting with him?
So, well, and like I said, like definitely my Star Wars little brother is like our dynamic is so fantastic. I like one of my favorite people. It was just like that whole our like little, because like Halcy and Addison are two other members of our book club, and Ian and I are in book club and in RPG, and you know, planning this trip and this photo shoot all summer. And so like and Dee and I feel like I've talked for a very long time, right? And like for a month, like a year or more. So I was like, oh my God, these people that I'm really close to, I get to finally see in person. And it was so lovely. Like the funny thing is, so I had gotten a flight in on Wednesday. I left Wednesday morning. I was coming from Seattle. You can't come much further across the country that way, right? Like unless if you're in the lower 48, right? And so I was like, there's no way I would make it to the Thursday event, like Thursday night kickoff, if I had left. And I was like, I'm not leaving at some ungodly hour. And then being like totally tired. So I left on Wednesday and just did the hotel on my own the night before, and then not realizing he came in on a red eye and got in at like 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Crazy.
And so I know. And so what would have been smart is if like we like, because we had 2 rooms between all of us, and we should have booked like, I know, we should have like cycled in and out of these rooms in different ways and in better ways, right? Like we should have like combined our like, when's everyone getting there? And he kind of tried to, but it didn't sink in for everybody. So then I had got a message of like he was just down and hanging out in the lobby. I'm like, oh my God, let me shower and like get down there and everything. And I was like, why didn't I just have you bring your stuff up? And I think eventually
he landed and he just had to stick in the lobby because his room's not ready.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know. And I'm like, what were we thinking? So I already told him, I'm like, okay, next year, like we're planning like when, like who gets in when, and like what hotel room, and like we're planning this
the whole thing.
But so the two of us did hang around like all morning in the lobby, just chatting.
That's
and
awesome.
And then it was the funniest thing because we would go, oh my gosh, do you talk to Ryan much? Oh yeah, I do. We're in RPG together. One of my favorite people. I know. So nice, right? So nice. Oh my God. Like, do you ever talk to
Like,
I know,
you talk
Zach.
to Womprad,
Yes,
or do you talk to
absolutely.
Claudia? Yeah, yeah.
I know. Like, and we went through the whole list of everybody, and even some folks, because like he's down in California, and I think knows from the photography too, from the
Yeah, yeah.
holoscans, knows a lot of people I don't. But it was so funny because every time we would bring up a name, we'd be like, God, they're the nicest ever. I'm like, so everyone we know is the nicest person ever.
Yeah.
And just kind of talk about those experiences, and because I did meet Dee briefly
Oh, okay.
on Batuu when I was there for May the 4th.
Oh,
We
right.
had just kind of become friends, and one of the people I knew was going to be there, and I was there with Zach Eskren and Billy, and then we
Mm-hmm.
had run into Anthony from Order 66 and kind of brought him into our little group, and my brother was with
Yeah,
me, and
yeah,
we had
that's right.
run into the Droid Smiths and Mars and kind of all that, and it was kind of like this ebbing and flowing group, and
Mm-hmm.
ran into Mel and Tom, Chronically Onward, and
Mm-hmm.
Spectre Rebel, because they're locals. Well, they're not local, but they're there all the
They're,
time.
yeah, denizens. There's a
So
lot of the.
like, yeah, yeah. So like all these different groups, and so on May the 4th, Dee and his family were there, and I was like coming out of the cantina. I had gone in to grab napkins, or not the cantina, but Docking May 7, and I grabbed napkins. I'm coming out, and there's him and his family. Like, oh my God! And so like I gave hugs. I said
Yeah,
hi.
yeah.
I said hi to the kids. Everything. I'm like, we'll catch you later. Well, it
Right.
got packed, and we never found him again.
Yeah.
And so I was always like, oh, we could have hung out. And then, they had their kids in, so
Sure,
they
sure.
cut and run kind of early that evening, and we hadn't had tickets for the celebration, so we were out
Yeah.
by 7. But yeah, so I feel like it was a whole year of like, someday we're gonna hang out.
Yeah.
And then we did.
But then you did. Yeah,
And
the
so
little
that was
weekend. Yeah.
just so funny. It was just such a blast. And then he isn't in book club, but then my friends Chelsea and Addison, who are in book
Mm-hmm.
club, they got there in the afternoon. We got checked into our hotel room, um, and we went out for lunch with them because
Mm-hmm.
they're in the southeast United States, and Chelsea's no, sorry, Addison's folks are in Florida, or they're just across the border in Georgia, I think,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're there all the time.
Okay.
And so they're like, yeah, let's go to Disney Springs. We're going to go to our favorite restaurant. And so I'm like, yeah, come on, Dee, let's go. And so the three of them immediately hit it off. And I'm just
Nice.
like, when you surround yourself by these really great people, they all mesh really well.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome experience. Like, because I know these two super well from book club. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is awesome.
That is super cool.
So that was another fun thing because they were all like, wow, we've never met each other, but we're such good friends already. And
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that.
That's
So it was
awesome.
super fun. And that's why it was an extended reunion, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
everyone had a connection.
So,
Yeah.
how was it at Batuu East and then doing the photo shoot?
Oh, yeah. Well, so part of the photo shoot was the fact that there was a hurricane coming in. And I don't know, like, I'm always saying that all I want on Batuu is rain.
And you
And
got
I
your
got
wish.
it. Be careful what you wish for, because a hurricane came, and I didn't really mean for that to come.
Just
but
monkey pawed that whole thing.
Oh,
It was just blame it on Ceit Ryder, just summoning the
oh my God,
storms.
I know that was me being like, you know what I would love? A rainy day on Batuu. But so that's what we got. So, but I was still like, and I think I was so sleep deprived, and I was so worried about still being hot. Like, we knew the forecast was calling for a lot of rain,
Yeah.
but I still was like, oh my God.
gonna be-
So like, I went up awake at 5 o'clock in the morning, like splitting the seam of my pants and like making them kind of into like wrap harem pants because I was like, it's gonna be hot. And then it is dumping.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, well.
Well, that
It's
was
linen,
what was
it's
cool
like
about the
it's
shoot when I saw the holoscan was the torrential flooding that was happening in the park. You would like never see that, and it was a great opportunity for a photo op. So silver lining, you guys got some unique shots out of
There
it.
were some gorgeous photos,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I honestly like being up here in the Pacific Northwest. Like, I want rain on Batuu because I don't deal with the heat well. And so I actually got cold. I actually think by the end of the day, and because Chelsea and Addison checked out kind of early, and then it was just Dee and Ian and I, and even by the end of it, each one of us kept being like, okay, like, whenever you guys are ready, I'm good. I'm okay. And then the other ones would be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like about half an hour later, someone else would be like, yeah, whenever you guys are ready, I'm good. So eventually we all were like, should we cut it? And eventually I was like, because I had brought sandals because I was just like, I'm not messing with boots. Like, this is Florida.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not, because
yeah.
I didn't even know there was a hurricane coming when I was packing. I don't know why. Because usually I'm obsessed about the weather,
Yeah.
and it was
You're too
just, I was
excited
focused
about
on
the
so many
con.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was literally in sandals all day, and I was just like, I think my feet are getting cold, and I'm sick of them being waterlogged. I'm good. And like we had gone on the three of us had done Smuggler's Run, and I get really motion sick.
Oh,
And I'd even told them, I was like, "Oh, guys, I don't know." Like we did Rise of the Resistance, and then we did Smuggler's Run, and we are
yeah.
gonna go over to Star Tours, and Star Tours is the worst for me.
Yeah,
And
cuz
I didn't feel well after Smuggler's Run, and I was like, guys, I gotta call it.
yeah.
Like, I maybe if I had like waited a little longer, I would have felt better. But I was like, you know what? And they were both like, yep, totally fine. Let's go. It's like, okay, we're all tired. We're all exhausted.
Yeah.
But it was lovely being on Batuu because everyone was there, right?
Mhm.
And so we knew a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And there were other folks, local Batuans that some people knew, and
Yeah.
so got to meet them.
Cool.
Um, yeah, that was awesome, and chat with a few of them, like just lovely people, and like so we were Dee's first photo shoot in the morning,
Mm.
and I was really worried. I was like, we've got to get through these gates and like
Mm.
get in and start. And he's like, it's cool. We've got it. And
Yeah.
um, and so we did. We got our photos, and they were great. And then Chelsea and Addison had taken off to make some droids and lightsabers and their pin collectors and stuff like that. So
Oh,
they
cool.
went they
Yeah,
went
yeah, yeah.
shopping for a while, and so Ian and I just hung out. There's like this little, where Chewie comes out, like just
Mhm.
past the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out on some rocks over there,
Yeah.
and we talked about core memories that night when we were packing up, and I was like, that's gonna be one of my core memories of the two of us just lounging around,
Yeah.
talking, and like we'd see some people that we knew go by, we'd chat with them, and then they
Yeah.
leave, and we just keep talking. And I was like, it really felt like we belonged. It really felt
Yeah.
like that was our element, and that was super super fun. I loved that part.
That's so
So
awesome. Okay, so I'll put you on the spot. Batuu
yeah,
East or Batuu West?
I know, right? Oh my god. And it was so I kept telling the guys, I was like, oh my god, this is really tripping me out.
Right.
I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm not on the West Coast. I'm not. This isn't Kansas anymore,
Right,
Toto.
right,
I
right.
was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is like I kept getting really flipped around. It's tough. A lot of it is really similar.
Mm-hmm.
Ian kept pointing out like different menu things, and I'm like, dude, I'm not up to enough to really have this ingrained in me, but that's okay. I know there was some sort of like, oh
Dee
gosh, I
mentioned
can't remember what it's
vegan
called.
Ronto wraps. Meatless
Oh,
Ronto. I
yeah,
was like, he's like, you never heard of
yeah.
it? I was like, why would I order vegan
Don't they
Ronto?
have Ronto-less wrap? And I didn't
Ronto-less
have it
wraps, but
actually.
yeah.
I split just a regular Ronto wrap with some like yolk. Oh no, some oatmeal stuff for
Oh, okay,
breakfast,
okay.
which was lovely. And again, that was another lovely point where we were just like
Yeah, you're just
hanging out,
hanging
eating our
out.
breakfast. Like we were the kind of the only ones in Docking Bay 7, like just like chowing down because the two of us are like always more food.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
please.
the answer is yes, I'm hungry. Like please. And so like if you just walk up to me every now and then and be like, here, I got this. Here, take a taste. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, thanks. And and so I was like, I don't know the difference,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll believe you. Like kind of, but yeah, it was nice to then like met Starboard,
Oh, right. Yeah.
so that
Mm-hmm.
was lovely, and got some pictures with Alita,
Mm-hmm.
and that was nice. And I interviewed one of the folks, the local Batuan,
Okay.
and then was still talking to them about their outfit. And
Nice.
Janessa was coming in, and this local Batuan,
Yeah.
he was like, oh my god, that person's outfit's amazing. I'm like, hold on, Jay, get over here. It's like you
Yeah,
two
yeah.
used
You
to
guys can
be.
meet. Yeah.
And now you two can like
Yeah.
be really all over it. I was like, yeah. So it was like there's those little connections of like people throughout the day were really lovely. So it was a bummer. All that rain kept the all the characters in, and
Oh,
we saw
okay.
like one group of stormtroopers kind of walking around, kind of testing
Sure.
it out. So the rain definitely it kept it cool and manageable, but
Yeah.
it made it a very quiet day on Batu.
Okay.
But like we were there, I think, just to blend in and have fun, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't really care.
Yeah. I can't wait for the next May the 4th, when if Burgundy Squad can meet, or even now the next Halcy-Con.
Yeah.
I was telling Ian, I was like, if you need a vending assistant, if we need to do like a video crew, like count me in.
Yes,
I want to go.
He could have used one for sure this time. We were all on keep Ian alive duty of
Yeah.
food and water.
It is a lot of work to manage a vending table at a con, and I know he's experienced in that, but still, it's a different experience.
Yeah, and it was the vending space was smaller than I was expecting. It probably filled to the max the space that they had. And that was one of my things in kind of like, because I sent out like a survey of like stuff, and it was the only thing I was like, if there's any way to get more vendors in here, do it, because this crowd wants to buy stuff. So like after the very first opening session, it was a mad dash to get in line. They had to cap how many people could go in. So there was this huge long line to get in right away, because a lot of makers had like con exclusive things.
Right. And they want to get their hands on that stuff.
And I'm like, even if you could do like some different areas, so you kind of feel like you're going through a town where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to this district, or I'm gonna go to that district. Like, even if they could do something, I don't know if they could with the hotel, but like, because this crowd wants to buy stuff for sure.
Maybe a bigger hotel, or that could accommodate more vending tables
or something.
But that's good that they're gonna do it again.
Pretty large, but they must have something down there. So because a lot of people, because I kept going in to check on and be like, here, eat this, or like I was like, and I bought a few things from them. And a couple other vendors, but like it took me a long time to even get all the way back to where everybody was, because I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much, even in just the little vendors that were, the few vendors that were set up in the very first room and in the hallway, and there's another back room, and I kept being like, oh wait, I still haven't gotten back to those last ones.
You would do it again? You going?
Oh yeah. The downside is that October is super busy for my family. I haven't really put it out there, but I'm already like, oh, I hope I can go again next year, because it was so fun. It was just fun, even like when we would all order meals and like crash in one of the two rooms and just all sit around and be eating our food and talk about whatever. I was like, this almost feels like a college experience. Right? Like a university experience. Like when you'd be like, okay, whose room tonight? Where are we hanging out? Like, it was really nice.
That's cool. Yeah, well, I mean, even too, like, I mean, of course we love our families, but it's like you don't have to worry about the kids, and you don't have to worry about, like, it's not Disneyland. You don't have to like feel like you need to go around the whole park and ride rides. It is like summer camp, Star Wars summer camp.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, Disney, can you open a Star Wars summer camp, please? I know Halcy-Con didn't quite work, but maybe summer camp.
Yeah. Star Wars summer camp, that would be awesome.
And hire me, please.
Yeah. please pick us for those kind of things. That's really cool. I'm glad you had a great experience, because sometimes cons can be difficult and they feel like a blur, and I'm sure the people who went on the Halcy-Con, I know that felt like a blur because they rush them so fast, right? But
and it was really great to be a fly on the wall and watching those people. I kept talking about like debriefing. I was like, this is just a weekend debrief is what this is, because that was such a jarring experience for those folks to go back into the real world. And no one had any idea what they were talking about or what their experience was like. And I used to work in outdoor and adventure education and like run a high ropes course and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, you never brought people back to the ground and not debriefed it. Like you had to talk about that experience they had and why it was valuable to them and how they could carry it with them in their everyday life. I understand that like there's a Facebook group for Halcyon folks and stuff like that, and they do, and lifelong friendships have been made. Heck, lifelong friendships have been made for me. It's just because Ian's recruited everybody he's met on the Halcyon. They're my best friends. I didn't even go on the darn thing. And it changed my life in that way. And I think that the other thing so I was like, wow, they should have done some sort of formal debriefing. A. B, it is one of those little niche groups, like my husband and I are deadheads, and that group of people, man, you're like standing in line in the bathroom at a concert. Everybody is suddenly best friends, right? Because you have such a deep love of some obscure thing. And this is like such a specialized corner of the general Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And it really is, because of that, it creates this family-like atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is so darn happy and
Yeah.
so darn loving. And like it's emotional. Like the amount of
Yeah.
things that I was handed by people that were like, here, either they made it themselves or they ordered it.
Yeah.
And like it was like tenfold, because like when I went to Batuu for May the 4th, I wasn't expecting that. Like everyone
Okay.
I met was handing me something. It was like trick or treating.
Yeah.
This was tenfold. It was insane, the amount of stuff I mean, I literally bought, I think I shared it on Instagram recently. Like I bought like a Diddy bag from one of the vendors because I was
Okay.
like, I need something to hold all this stuff
Yeah.
in. It's still sitting on my cabinet downstairs. Like, just that's where all that stuff lives right now.
Yeah.
Ian and I were having a conversation about, is gift giving a major love language
Oh,
in the maker community, because like you've
interesting.
made this is a part of yourself. You know, even if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't physically make it, you ordered it, it was your idea, it was your brainchild.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people cannot share themselves enough, I feel
Yeah.
like there's so much love and enthusiasm, and yeah, it was amazing to be like adopted into that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because as a maker, you want to share, and mostly like with costuming and cosplay, it's like visual, right? Like you're putting yourself out there with a photo or video.
Yeah.
But for, I guess for like, Galactic Mercantile Guild, they're making greeblies and stuff, and
Yeah.
that definitely translates into Star Wars. I think there's a lot of creatives in the Star Wars community, and so yeah, that shouldn't surprise me. But putting it in that light, yeah, that's actually pretty eye opening. That's really cool.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually, I should probably do a poll on my on my Instagram and be like, what is your love language? Do you know? Because you might be like one of these people. And it was like anything. It was like, there were a lot of folks, like I just did beaded bracelets,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was like such a huge piece that was like, wow, just having something to give that had a little story, that had a little connection, that had like, and a bunch of us were wearing like our, like, because there were the silicone bands too that a lot of people
Uh-huh.
made and stuff like that. And it was just really like those mementos that then we can carry with us.
Right.
And like a memento is such an ingrained human like tradition. It goes back eons,
Mm-hmm.
right? You think of like people doing pilgrimages in Europe and getting the pilgrim badges, right, in
Yeah.
medieval eras. Like these mementos are so ingrained across cultures, and that's what I saw. I was like, wow, this is really cool how this is common human thread, and I loved it.
That's rad. No, I mean, that inspired me when Ian showed me his bracelet, because he's like, I guess I'm a bracelet guy now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, I didn't even think about that, because my daughter's in a phase where she's doing beads. My mom actually started doing
Yeah.
beads as gifts for people, but then when
Yeah.
he shared yours, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, it could be in world now in Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm gonna have to find
Totally.
some. I'll go to take a trip to Michael's or something and try to find
Right?
something.
I know. I'm gonna have to do that again. I really, so that was just because it has a story, and I
Yeah,
love that everything that was being given had a story.
yeah.
And mine was that like that background character, or that cover character, she's traveled the galaxy, and
Hmm.
so and the similar as the Sajas, they collect beads as they travel the galaxy,
Yeah,
which kind of knew, but I kind of didn't know.
yeah.
But I just found some beads at Goodwill, and then I just have a stash in this closet of like literally some of the beads on those bracelets, because
Yeah.
I got ones that were really uniform and towards the end of when I only had the ones I found at Goodwill left. But then other bracelets were really mixed, and they even were coming from like the first time I went to California, I bought a bracelet, and then years later broke, and like
Yeah.
this and that, and I remembered where those memories came from, and I was really excited to like those people, they don't know,
Yeah.
but like I was like, this is really cool to like give these moments from my past to people. And so I think the beaded bracelets are a really cool thing to trade, and
That
like
is
whether
cool.
some people had messages written in them and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, I loved over those ones. So
Yeah.
there was one that's like one universe that somebody gave, and I was like, yeah, we all are one. This is so cute.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, yeah, I mean, how was it emotionally for you at the end of it?
oh. So I felt really bad, and I told Diana, I was like, I'm sorry, I was not so so our friends, like Hattie was crying,
Yeah.
Ian was crying. I hope that's okay. I'm just saying that, like, just like really like tears,
Yeah.
and Dee was getting choked up, And I don't know if I went into some sort of like neurodivergent mode or
Okay.
what, but like I was observing, and people were very emotional at the end of it. And I was observing it, and I was like being present for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was so much to take in
Right.
that I was so wrapped up in just absorb it, just absorb it,
Yeah.
just absorb it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get emotional
Okay.
over it. And I think that probably because I did not have the actual experience of the Star Cruiser, it's
Interesting.
not quite as emotional for me. I
Okay.
actually got teared up when I was at the plenary session on Friday, was a panel. So it was folks coming from the immersive entertainment field.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Dee mentioned something like
you know,
that.
so there are more. Oh, here it is. Yes. Okay. So the Association of Interactive Performance Professionals. So
Mm-hmm.
there were two individuals from that organization. One being, he's been a college professor for decades,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
teaching in theater, teaching in things like this. And the other one had been his student at one point, like in the 70s.
Yeah.
And listening to these two talk, and another individual, she works for, it's Orlando Studios, right? That has the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So she
Yeah.
works
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
who it is? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because I've actually never been there, but she works on that, and like,
Nice.
and how would people want to interact with this
In that theme park in that
environment?
world. Yeah.
Well, these two gentlemen with the, what did I just say? With the Association of
The
Interactive
longer name.
Professionals, they've worked on lots and lots and lots of projects,
Yeah.
and the one has taught and things like that. And I was really, that's when I was moved to tears, because I have a degree in outdoor recreation leadership and management.
Oh.
Thank you very much. But I was in school to teach people to play,
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
like keep that spark alive. And that's something that a lot of us talk about in costuming and in
Mm-hmm.
our bird game squadron, right? And like we're playing. This is our sandbox, right? We talk about the sandbox a
Yeah.
lot. Like, come play with me.
Yeah.
And it was just really lovely and amazing to hear the collision of theater and the arts
Mm-hmm.
and play,
Yeah.
and have them talk about different projects that they had worked on through the years that kind of led to this association and things like that. And so then I did get to stop and talk to them later on, and I was like, that was moving. I was in tears. I
Nice.
loved everything he had to say. So he was like, here's my card. He was like, why are you here? And I was like, oh, because he's a college professor, so he's asking all these good questions, right? So like,
Yeah.
anybody who would ask him a question, he would ask a question back,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was so deep. It was always so wonderful, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kept like nudging D. I'm like, oh my god, that was so good. And so he asked me, and he was like, why are you here? And I was like, well, my friends and I are all over the world, and we met because we want to play through costuming via social media
Yeah.
to like to live
Yeah.
these fantasies and these stories, and just, yeah, to be creative. And he was just like, yes, absolutely. And he was like, when you want to take that to like go up a notch with that, here's my card, right? And I was like, oh, we want to go up a notch. Like, let me tell you, honey, we
Two
like,
notches.
we will take it
Don't ask me twice.
maximum speed, right? Like, we will go, like, our friends will run with it, right? And I was just like, so I did mention, I was like, there are these things that we see popping up, like
Yeah.
the was it Twin Suns Ranch? Shoot, now I'm wondering if that's the name of it. But there's a lot of D's taking photos down there. So there's that, and then I was like, there's this space dive in Detroit that runs around May the 4th, where it's an immersive experience where people can go in as their characters. And I was like, I have a background in the Renaissance Festival. And so and he was nodding like, and I'm like, so I grew up thinking like, oh, it's totally normal to take your passion and just live it at a certain place with your friends, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now I'm seeing it creep into Star Wars with Batuu, and
Yeah.
and it's it's on fire for some of us. It gives us life,
Yeah.
and so that was the moment when I was being moved to tears, because it was this culmination in my head of like, oh my god, yeah, what I learned in recreation, and what led me to be so passionate about that, and like,
Yeah.
getting people out there to like, just because you're an adult, don't stop playing.
Yeah.
Like don't stop dreaming. Like, imagine and create, and then kind of like having a little bit of theater background, and then also like, yeah, just this like spreading it, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. And being a people person, right, and like
Yeah,
wanting more
yeah.
people involved, and everything. I was like, and so that was a really emotional experience for me. I loved that experience, and then I think, like I mentioned, a very quiet moment that Ian and I had writing on the ribbons and tying them
Mm.
on. I think because he was reading a bunch of them off to me and just seeing what people wished for
Hmm.
that, and just seeing like, people could pour their hearts out in that sense. And I wasn't really choked up, but I was very much like making it core memory, like in my mind being like,
Yeah.
this is special, this is special, like remember this, remember like these sights and these like this sound that's going on and the lighting and like the texture of this
Mm.
artwork, like remember this.
Yeah.
Because it's like very much like the little ribbons are very much like these little prayer flags, which is like
Yeah. Yeah.
a, belief that I love. And like I was just like, yeah, this is us putting our well wishes out into the world in a Star Wars way, right? I was like, oh, that's so cool.
That's
So
awesome. I'm so
yeah.
glad you had a great
Yeah.
experience, and I hope that, selfishly, that I could be there next year. When
Sure, I was gonna
everybody
say all of our friends need to
everybody
make
needs to
it.
go.
And we kept being like, we were like, God, Mars should be here, Zach
Oh,
should
I
be here,
know. Yeah.
oh, like there are definitely friends that should be here, and then Billy having the audacity to come to the States later in
Later after.
October, like a week after.
How dare you, sir?
Dare
No.
you, Billy? How dare you?
We'll all get
But
together soon. We'll put that out in the universe
we'll,
that Burgundy Squad will
we'll
meet
all get
together.
there someday.
Yeah.
That's why I keep being like, somebody in Burgundy Squadron needs to get married. That's what I told D. I'm like, who is single and who needs to get married? Because that's what people travel for. And I will like help you plan it. I will officiate whatever I gotta
Right,
do
right,
to
right.
make this wedding happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the single ones in the group now, so
Perfect. Okay, good. I'll be the Irish matchmaker too. That's great. Okay.
I like Star Wars. I like podcasting, costuming.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. I'm building a file in my mind right now. This
Now
is
you're gonna
perfect.
be like,
Actually, I have joked around with one of my friends from book club that I'm like, I should start. Okay, now I'm putting it out there in the
yeah,
universe.
yeah, go ahead.
I should start a geeky dating
That's what I was just
like
gonna
show.
say. Oh, okay, a
Yeah,
show.
I would love that. Where it's like, okay, we're gonna go to Renaissance Festival together. We're gonna go to Comic Con together. We're gonna go to a comic book shop together.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
play some RPG together. Okay, and like see.
I'm
who,
sold. I'm
like,
in. I'm in.
matches.
RPG. You had me at RPG. I'm in.
Great. Okay, let's make this happen.
You're like, if you were a Star Wars class, what would you be? And I was like, well, this is my.
What color lightsaber would you choose and why?
Yeah, yeah.
What color represents your personality? Oh, totally. I mean, but,
Oh my
but
gosh.
it is true because like people will travel. What will people travel for? Weddings.
Weddings,
People will
yeah.
travel for weddings.
That's true.
And so that's why I'm like, we need
Destination weddings.
or space prom. I would love
Oh,
if somebody
space
would
prom would be
host a
fun.
space prom because it was so fun getting dressed up for the gala, and it's just really extra special to see how people took it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I was telling like our crowd, I was like, I love getting dressed up in fancy clothes and just
Yeah.
being ridiculous with my friends. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even have to dance. I can just watch somebody else dance. Sometimes I'll dance.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if there's not enough people watching, right? Or if I could finish one drink, which I kept handing Ian all my drinks and be like, here, finish this for me. Because I'm a lightweight.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Thank you for the drink. Here, you can
Yeah,
have it
ooh,
back.
tastes really good. Here you go.
But yeah, like I hope that our group is growing always, always, always. And
Yeah.
I realize that that's difficult, but yeah, it'd be lovely to have just a huge group of us.
I would be
together
happy
sometime
with
because
half.
it
I mean,
really
I was
is.
the full FOMO I had last Star Wars night. I was like, oh, I wasn't in the picture that D took. I call it the Last Supper Batuu.
Oh yes! Oh my God, that was such a gorgeous
that's one of
photo.
my
I
favorite
know.
photos.
I know, and that's why like when that came out, and that's why I was like, wait, I am booking with him for Halcy-Con, and then
Yeah.
I was like, Ian, you with me? Like
Oh,
we
yeah,
need
yeah,
a
yeah.
mission.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm with you. Yes,
He's always down.
thank you.
No, I thought.
I know he's always fun.
I thought what you were gonna say when you said the game show, like a dating game show. I thought you were gonna go, I should make a Star Wars matchmaker character, like
Oh my God, I
in
should.
world.
That's my next character.
Your next character.
Oh my God, yes.
I have this
For
nice
the busy
Rhodian.
executive on Coruscant.
Yeah. You're like, I have this nice girl from Corellia. You know, she has good family, good background.
Oh my
If anyone can do it, you can do it. That'll be the mid-rim challenge for you this time.
Oh my gosh.
Star Wars
right.
matchmaker.
This is your challenge. Okay. I'm just building a list in my mind now. Oh my gosh.
There's a specific look.
Also going to be getting messages from people being like, yeah, I went on the dating show. So,
yeah, you're like, just put my name in. But it was so great having you on. And I want to plug again, you and Billy do a show on YouTube on the Dad Batch YouTube channel called Off the Rack Rebellion. It is a great show where you guys break down costumes and looks. And I want to commend you guys because you guys are getting into your own. You guys are podcasting now.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like we've really hit a stride. It's super fun. Like, yeah, like we recently, just before Halcy-Con, we recorded an episode on belts. I'm like, do we need to talk about, like, hash this out, or are we just doing it? And Billy's like, oh, we're just doing it. And then I was like, I'm worried we're not going to talk long enough. And we talked for almost an hour. So I was like, of course we did.
Well, it's funny because even watching your guys' first episode, you're like, hi, I'm Kate. And you're like, hi, I'm Billy. And it's like, who talks? Like, which one of us talks? Like, you'll feel it. Yeah. But then as you go through, you guys see the growth, right? It just becomes natural. And you guys are great on the mic. And I'm glad because I remember when Billy said, oh, we got like 12 episodes. I was like, oh, I hope they do more. And you guys are doing more, and it's awesome. So
yeah, oh totally. Yeah, we've got a constant running list like on our phones that we add to.
And you guys have great guests too. You had Noisy Morning on, and you had Eshrao, one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars Hunters.
Yeah, that was I love that, right? Like, because I don't play video games, so I love seeing that. So it is fun, and it's a joy to talk costuming with Billy. I just like I hang up from our session and I'm just like my cheeks hurt, right? Because I'm like, this is so great. I love this. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have you both on, and we have to talk about what your podcasting experience is like. But I want to ask you, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am at One Scavenger's Wardrobe on Instagram. I think there's underscores between the words. And then Off the Rack Rebellion has periods between the words. We're also on Instagram. I think I need to put up some visual aids this week, which I have not, but that's where we are. And then you can find us, like, you can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. We are under the Dad Batches family umbrella, so you can find us through those guys too. Yeah,
all those links will be in the description, along with mine, where you can find the Rancor YouTube channel, the Rancor podcasts. There's an Etsy store somewhere in that universe as well that I still need to promote. It's always something to talk about. And rancorclothing.com, where you can get cool nerdy shirts for as low as $19.99. But with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your galactic day. Punch it, Chewie. Boom. We're out of here. Bergie Squad out.